guys, and welcome to the Fish Room. I'm Rachel O'Leary, and it's time for a Tuesday tip. Now, it's summertime and everybody's traveling. So today I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what I do when I'm getting ready to travel to prepare my fish for my absence. Now, a lot of people are really tempted to get folks in to feed their fish every day, but I think this can be really dangerous, especially if it's a person that's a family member or a friend and not a fish keeper. My preference is absolutely to not feed the fish unless you're dealing with very young fish. Now, in my fish room, I have a whole range of critters, some of which are more critical to feed than others. The vast majority of fish do just fine if they're not fed for up to 2 weeks. In fact, I rarely have any losses at all from using this strategy. Now, because I do have a bunch of ram fry and shell dweller fry, I am having a person come in to feed. But I've labeled the tanks, and I'll do pre-portioned containers for each aquarium for her to feed. In fact, I might even hide the rest of the food so she can't be tempted to feed anything else or overfeed. Lots of people like to use the little weekly pill containers and put the food in that in a row. I tend to just use Ziploc bags that I tape to the tank. But all in all, the vast majority of fish that are in a tank that is well cycled, that's aged, meaning more than a few months old, do just fine without supplemental feeding, especially for a long weekend or a week. So one of the things that I like to do when I'm getting ready to travel is the week leading up to travel, I feed pretty heavily, not overfeeding, not throwing food at them constantly, but normally in the fish room I only feed about 4 days a week. So I'll feed every day leading up to vacation. And then starting about 2 days before I'm gonna leave, I start doing big water changes in every aquarium. As you can imagine down here, it takes a while to get everything done. I'll do any normal maintenance as well, including cleaning out sponge filters and make sure every tank is completely full before I leave. This is especially important in my fish room because I don't use lids on most of my aquariums and evaporation can be an issue. In fact, when I was traveling to Oregon and Washington, I came home to a massive mess in the fish room floor because my 150's water level had dropped and that nice custom spray bar I built was spraying water all over the floor. For this vacation, because we're going to be gone for a week or possibly longer, I am having a pet sitter stay at my house. Now, I think this is a really good idea, especially if you have more than just fish. We have cats, turtles, chickens, rabbits. So for me, it makes a lot of sense to hire someone to come in. And in fact, there is a national database of pet sitters that are accredited that you can hire, many of which are also fish keepers. I've also in the past reached out to my local fish club and gotten someone to come to the house that is also a fish keeper. Now, my preference is to have someone stay here, and that's because, you know, various animals need to be let out at various times of the day or closed back up in the case of the chickens. I find it to give me great peace of mind. Last year, or 2 years ago, when I was traveling through the Appalachian Mountains, the pump in the Oscar tank died. If I wouldn't have had a pet sitter that was at least walking through the fish room, I would have come home to a dead Captain Cranky Pants. So personally, for me, that's the best option. And it ends up costing me between $15 and $20 a day to have a pet sitter come into the house. I think that's reasonable, especially for the peace of mind it gives me and for the value of the inhabitants of my fish room and how attached I am to my personal pets. Now, if you only have 1 or 2 aquariums, it's perfectly appropriate to have a friend or family member come into your house. I just strongly encourage you to make sure that you pre-portion your foods and go over very clearly not to overfeed. Again, like I mentioned, I put away all my foods that are not pre-portioned just so that nobody's tempted to overfeed out of love and concern. Another thing to consider is that all of my tanks, for the most part, are planted. That means all these little fish have things that, you know, microorganisms that they can pick at in my absence. Again, the only thing I'm really concerned about having fed is the fry, and that's because if they go a week without eating, they are going to die, and I don't want that. I have 200 ram fry. Now the bigger concern is in that aquarium, I'm currently doing almost daily water changes, and my pet sitter is not equipped to do that. So I have her feeding the base minimum that I think will keep the fry alive. I'm also going to drop a couple of mystery snails in that aquarium, which will provide some additional infusoria through their slime trail for the fry to pick at. I think that often keeps them going in between feedings, you know, especially in a small aquarium like they're in. I also went over with my pet sitter how to fire up my generator in case a catastrophic power outage, which I sincerely doubt will happen, but rather safe than sorry. So just to recap, the things that I think are most important when we're getting ready to travel are to feed normally to slightly heavily leading up to your travel. Do your normal maintenance right before you leave. If you're going to have someone come into your house to feed your animals, make sure you pre-portion the food so that they know exactly how much they're supposed to be giving. People have the best of intentions, but it can be absolutely disastrous. I tend to avoid auto feeders because my fish room is sort of humid and they tend to clog, leading them to either not function at all or dump all the food at once. The last thing you want is a ton of food dumped in your aquarium to spoil. And then finally, I like to move mystery snails into any fry tank to supplement the fry in between the light feedings I have scheduled with my sitter. As always, I thank you guys for your support. I hope everyone is having a wonderful summer. Make sure you stop by my Instagram, my Facebook, and my website so you can keep up with all my travels and find more information on all things nano. As always, let me know below if you have any comments, suggestions, or questions, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos.